Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be reviewing the Z3FC monitor from Arzopa. Thanks to Arzopa for providing this sample for review. No money was exchanged in this, and all opinions are my own as usual. There's also a link in the description for tracking that is not affiliated, so I don't get anything out of this except in the product which I'm reviewing. So very quickly, we got this box that looks very premium. So GG on that. Inside the box, you have everything that you need. I removed everything already. So what's in the box? In the box you find, well, the monitor, obviously, and then you'll find 3 cables, a mini HDMI to HDMI. This uses mini HDMI due to the size of the thing. We got a USB-C to USB-C port. This one doesn't give you display, so this is only for power, which is fine, I get it. And you also get another USB-C to USB-C. This one is for display and power, so you can actually get a video signal through this one. And I love that they have the detail of the 90-degree cable, so you plug it in and it doesn't get in the way, which I think is pretty good. Oh, and I forgot to mention, also in the box is this carrying case. It's pretty soft on the inside, reminds me of myself, and the monitor goes right in. And again, feels pretty solid. The monitor won't get scratched or anything. Seems to be a pretty good quality fabric, but just the fact that it's soft inside makes a big difference that this is included. When I put it in my backpack, it's all good. Haven't had any issues scratching the screen or anything like that. The only complaint on this is that there's no small pocket to put your wires, but you could put it behind the monitor if you don't mind scratching it a tiny bit, maybe. But other than that, nice to have this included in the box. It itself is 16.1 inches. Then here you got the buttons for power, up and down for the brightness, and the on-screen display, so you can control what the monitor is doing, at least when it comes to the settings and navigating around. Then when it comes to connections, you have 2 USB-Cs and 1 mini HDMI. So both of these support going to a display. So for example, you have, I don't know, a MacBook or a laptop that supports DisplayPort through USB-C. You can do this over here, which is pretty useful. It also works for Steam Deck using this. This supports up to 1440p at 180 Hz. So that's good to have with this FreeSync. But through the mini HDMI, you basically have HDMI 2.0, I think it is. So you can go up to 144 Hz at 1440p, so that's a big extension to have. Also, if you want FreeSync through this particular port, you'll actually need a Radeon GPU. NVIDIA does support FreeSync through HDMI, but starting on HDMI 2.1. Through HDMI 2.0, only AMD supports FreeSync through that configuration. NVIDIA starts supporting FreeSync through HDMI starting from 2.1. That's a patent issue, so keep that in mind. If you're connecting this to an NVIDIA GPU for some reason, you won't have FreeSync through this port, again, due to that. But if you have a Radeon card, FreeSync works just fine through this. So again, capped to 1440p at 144 Hz. And through these two, there are DisplayPort, more bandwidth. You have up to 1440p at 180 Hz with FreeSync. Another cool thing that you get from this one is that feed over here to put the monitor like this. In older versions of these Arzopa monitors, you had kind of like a tablet magnetic thing, but the magnet wasn't strong enough. Having this plastic feet actually does help. You can even put it vertical. So this supports it like this. It's actually pretty damn useful, at least in my opinion. It doesn't get in the way of the cables. It doesn't occupy a lot of space. Just if you put this here, it doesn't move a lot. It moves a bit, so make sure not to knock it over. But yeah, it does the job. So as an example over here, I'm going to connect it to my laptop. It's a MacBook, so it supports video through USB-C. This angled cable is actually for the monitor, but just to show you, just plug it in. And you get both power and video through this monitor, so it turns on. And it'll just duplicate my screen right away. It's pretty simple, actually. I don't know why the default brightness is pretty low. Let's increase this. The monitor says it will use more power, obviously. Okay, that's much better. It was way too dim. but there it goes. It's actually pretty bright. I'm pretty impressed on that. Okay, so you guys can see I used a pretty small resolution with scaling on macOS. That is actually pretty good. So we got from 1440p all the way down to 800 by 600. And you got VRR 60 to 180 Hertz because we got DisplayPort through USB-C. So we have enough bandwidth to do so. So yeah, as a second monitor, I think, especially when I get out of the house, outside of my office, and I love it's just one cable, it's not messy, it's just one USB-C cable that comes in the box to the USB-C port on your laptop that has to support, again, DisplayPort through USB-C. Usually the Thunderbolt ones are the ones that support that. One cable in, the monitor gets power, you get also video, so it's only one cable, which is super useful. I love that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is actually show you power usage. So I connected the switch to the dock. One cable is for power to the monitor, and the other one is basically for video through HDMI. So let's see if we're at maximum brightness. Yes, we are. Wonderful. So what does it detect? Well, the Switch 2 can do up to 120. And as you can see right now, we're at 60 Hertz, but without HDR, it can do 120. Right now, HDR is off, but the game that I'm playing right now, Tetris Effect, doesn't support 120. How much power does it use? It's using 14 watts right now. If you're at like 180 Hertz, it actually can get to 16 watts. So around 15 watts of power at max brightness. I think that's pretty damn good. It's not a lot of power, just 15 watts. If you're using something like a Steam Deck, maybe it will just dry the battery pretty quickly, but again, generally fine like this. On Steam Deck, you don't actually need a dock for this monitor to work. It's still USB-C, so again, it's directly through the USB-C port. But of course, we saw that 15-watt draw, and the USB-C port from Steam Deck would need to drive those 15 watts from the monitor through the Steam Deck, so it'll drain the battery super quick. And once you connect the monitor for power and for video to the Steam Deck, so through the Steam Deck USB-C, we're getting video, but we're also giving the monitor power through another USB-C. It actually gives power to the Steam Deck and the monitor at the same time, so you can charge your Steam Deck by just plugging in the monitor to the Steam Deck and the monitor to a power source. So it's technically like a dock in that regard. You can use the Steam Deck controls just fine, or you can do what I do generally, which is connect a controller. Just make sure that the power from the wall that you're getting, in this case, is 40 watts. So we're charging the Steam Deck, keeping the monitor powered, and giving it video through USB-C. And here you can actually get 1440p up to 180, but at 180 I get a black screen. The maximum I could go was 165. I recommend 120 because when you're locking the frame rate, you actually can do VRR, or if you're not doing VRR for some reason, you can lock it to 40 and it still looks good. So Mouse PI for Hire, they actually recommend 40 FPS. So with an unlocked frame rate at 720, we're getting right now 71 frames, but VRR is disabled. You gotta go to this menu and enable VRR. But if you wanted to use it like a normal Steam Deck, you can actually do 40 FPS directly from the 120. But let's add a VRR, which is pretty important. And now you can basically put the frame rate at whatever you want, and it will just dynamically adjust the refresh rate. If we look at the monitor settings, we're at 80 FPS according to the Steam Deck, 78 actually. And if we look in the middle of the screen, you can refresh it by going up and down. And it says 1440p, 81 FPS, 74, so it's going up and down to actually get the, the VRR is working basically, that's what I'm trying to say. So in this case, we want to get 40 FPS, so we just lower the FPS limit inside SteamOS to 40 FPS, and we're using VRR. So that means that we're not using VSync, basically no latency. And the monitor is doing low frame rate compensation. That means that it's basically still staying within a higher, it's duplicating the frames still. So we're getting 40s, but the monitor is running like at 80 Hertz, 70, 90 Hertz. but it feels way more responsive than just using VSync. I mean, it responds right away. Responds right away, way better than just using VSync. So BRR, again, it works here because we're through DisplayPort and we have enough power to do so as well. But as you can see, the Steam Deck is being charged a bit while the monitor is at full brightness. And if we put it to 120 FPS, basically the monitor is using like 15 watts and the Steam Deck is charging itself and at the same time being provided power. So everything is going in here at once. We're charging the Steam Deck, giving power to the monitor, and getting the full monitor capabilities. So it's basically being used like a dock to charge the Steam Deck. You just need a charger, plug it into the monitor, and then the other cable to the Steam Deck to provide video. And it's super smooth. I really love what this does. And you might say, but man, why not 1440p? Well, 1440p is a much higher resolution than 720p. So the monitor will really, I mean, it can push those pixels. By default on SteamOS, it won't go to that resolution. You need to manually adjust it in the settings. But in a game like this, as an example, if you want to get 40s, 1440p is not a great idea. So why 720p? Doesn't it look blurry? Well, actually, since 720p is basically 50% 1440p on each axis, it scales perfectly. We can go down here on the SteamOS settings and go to integer scaling. Integer scaling is basically perfect scaling. Instead of doing the linear upscaling, like if you're doing, I don't know, 720p on a 1080p monitor, that it looks blurry. This actually scales perfectly, 1:1 on each pixel. And you can also add sharpness if you want to. But the thing is, this acts like if it was 720p native on this monitor because it scales perfectly. And being 16 inches, I used to have a 720p monitor that was like 21 inches. It was okay. And this actually does do a good job just doing that upscaling from 720 to 1440p. So you're not actually losing performance on Steam Deck, maybe a couple of frames because of the upscaling, but again, it's perfectly sharp. It's like having a 16-inch 720p monitor. And then if you're in a more old game like Left 4 Dead 2, you can actually do 1440p. It looks sharper, obviously. But 720p on this monitor using integer scaling is just fine. It actually fits perfectly for Steam Deck. And you're not actually doing a higher resolution, so it's not more demanding. You can actually get away with it. It looks pretty sharp. Zoom in a little bit so you can see on Forza Horizon 6 and on Mouse PI for Hire, as an example. Again, it looks like if this monitor was native 720 using integer scaling. The brightness is actually pretty good. Color accuracy, good as well, despite us being in a black and white game. And also the darkness when there's a black pixel is completely fine, despite being an LCD panel. I mean, even in the dark parts, I know pointing a camera at the screen doesn't do it justice, but trust me on this one, the colors are pretty damn good. Max brightness, and it says 50 minutes charging time. Maybe it's just slowly charging, which again, is fine. You're getting all the power from the USB port on the Steam Deck. You could even limit your battery to 80% if you're playing like this, but it's basically a portable dock mode because you got the power, the video, and just plug in a controller or use the Steam Deck like this while you're on the monitor. You just need a charger, the monitor, and the Steam Deck. And if you happen to want 1440p, it's pretty simple. Just go to the cog on any of the games, go into General, and maximum game resolution, put it at 1440p, and the game will have 1440p available for you. I highly recommend doing this only for less demanding games, maybe Left 4 Dead 2, something older that can actually do 1440p on Steam Deck, because it's a big ask to do new games, maybe Tekken 8 at 1440p. It's an option, it's there, but I don't recommend you do it. Again, 720p with integer scaling looks actually pretty sharp. I was pretty surprised. Again, what do I think about this monitor? I think it's a fantastic monitor considering it's portable. It only uses 15 watts. You can use it as a dock to power your Steam Deck. I think it's a great addition if you like playing docked on your Steam Deck without losing that performance, because again, you need less than at least 800p on the native screen on Steam Deck. You can do 720, upscale to 1440p with integer scaling, so it looks like native 720 on this monitor. And you have also the flexibility of actually doing 1440p if you have a less demanding game that you want to have super sharp visuals on. Not to mention also FreeSync. FreeSync works completely fine, goes from 40 something to 165. That's the range. It can do 180, but on the Steam Deck I couldn't get 180. Maybe a limitation of the Steam Deck. So would I recommend the Z3FC 144 or to 180 Hz 1440p monitor from Arzopa? Actually, yeah. I've seen it at $144 at the time of making this video. I think it's a great deal, especially if you want to use it docked with the Steam Deck. It actually works pretty well, better than I expected. I didn't expect 720p with integer scaling to 1440p to work so well, but I actually think it adds a lot to the experience. And from the small Steam Deck screen to a 16.1 inch, and again, 720 quote-unquote native works pretty well. You can also use it on Switch 2, on your PS5, PS4, anything that has HDMI. It works pretty damn well. I personally use it a lot for my laptop to have a second screen when I'm outside home. What really disappoints me about this is the brightness. It goes up to 400 nits, but it also has HDR. And the HDR looks horrible because we only have 400 nits. I would say for HDR, you need at least 1000 nits. So more than double the brightness would be necessary to get proper HDR on this thing. So again, many monitors do actually advertise HDR and they have it, but I never use it because when the brightness is so low, it just looks washed out and bad. Just use SDR. You have way better image quality and color accuracy. And while the response time is 9 milliseconds, I still think that is pretty responsive, especially when you're using FreeSync. So I don't really have any complaints for that. It responds right away. It doesn't stop me for playing games or working. But yeah, considering the price, the power usage, and the versatility of it, I'll highly recommend it. So again, if you want to get this monitor, link in the description, not an affiliate link, it's a tracking link. So the people from Arzopa know the performance of this video. And this video is not sponsored, it's a review. I just got the review sample and I've been testing it for around a month. And so far, I'm pretty happy with it. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thanks again to Arzopa for providing a sample for review. I'll be talking more about this monitor in the future because I'm using it quite a bit, more than I expected actually. And it just goes in my backpack and it's basically not there. It's like having a notebook back there. So thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.